Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, the Saudi Foreign Minister, Adel Al-Jubeir, was in London today talking to America's top diplomat, John Kerry. The two are preparing for peace talks on Syria later this month, but overshadowing that crisis, another, the breaking off of diplomatic relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran after the Saudi embassy in Tehran was ransacked following the execution of the prominent Shia cleric. And the Saudi foreign minister is still sounding very furious.
We hope it will see itself as a nation state and act as such. But what we have seen, unfortunately, in the last 35 years is a country that has used murder, a country that has used terrorism, a country that has used sectarianism, a country that has interfered in the affairs of others in the region in a very destructive and destabilizing manner. That is what concerns us.
Well, we're joined now by Jonathan Rugman, our foreign affairs correspondent. Jonathan, does this have the potential to get worse, or is he sounding off for the sake of sounding off?
Well, I only had a few minutes one-to-one with the Saudi foreign minister, but frankly, I think he could have talked about Iran all afternoon. He was that furious about it. I don't think either side wants to go to war over this, but what I think it does do is cast a terrible shadow over these peace talks on Syria, which are supposed to start on the 25th of January. The Saudi foreign minister said he hoped the talks would go ahead. I have to say he didn't sound as if he was sure. He accused the Assad regime of dragging its feet. And of course, he blames Iran for fueling the war in Syria itself. I did ask him about the deaths of civilians in Yemen, but I started by asking him about the case of Ali al-Nimr. This is the teenager who was convicted of carrying a weapon and supposedly inciting violence during the so-called Arab Spring. He was convicted when he was a teenager and he's now on death row. And the case has been taken up both by the Foreign Secretary and by Jeremy Corbyn alike.
The judicial system in Saudi Arabia is independent, and it is fair, and it is transparent. And the decisions about proceeding or not proceeding are internal Saudi matters. We have tremendous respect for the judicial system of other countries, and we expect other countries to respect our judiciary.
Because the British government has been lobbying you, hasn't it, not to do it?
Irrespective of what people think, this is the Saudi judicial system. We do not interfere in Britain's judicial system, with all due respect, or anyone else's judicial system. And so we will do whatever we need to do in line with our judicial system. Now, the case you talked about is still under review, and we will have to see what the final decisions are.
You must realise you do have a terrible image problem at the moment. Are you going to do something about that? I mean, you don't have to execute as many people as you do.
Well, on this issue, we have a fundamental difference. In your country, you do not execute people. We respect it. In our country, the death penalty is a part of our laws, and you have to respect this, as it is the law, part of the law in the United States and other countries. With regards to the perception of Saudi Arabia among the British public, this is a problem that we need to work on. We have not been good at explaining ourselves. We have not done a good job at reaching out to the British media or to the British public. We have not, or to the British institutions, academic institutions, think tanks, and so forth. We maybe not have been as communicative as we should be.
What about the facts of your campaign in Yemen? Your government has said it would carry out an investigation into alleged breaches of international humanitarian law, specifically the killing of civilians. Have you carried out that investigation, and can you tell us what you've concluded?
We are looking at all of these issues carefully, and we're looking at the record. I want to say something, and I don't want this to sound defensive, but a lot of the charges that are leveled against Saudi Arabia by NGOs or by third-party observers or based on Twitter reports tend to be baseless. The Iranian government itself alleged that we bombed their embassy in Sana'a, and it turns out to be false.
But are you saying you haven't killed civilians from the air?
Look, the Houthis have been bombing a lot of people from the ground indiscriminately. The Houthis have been using child soldiers, and I don't hear you complaining about this or any of your colleagues. We have no interest in trying to harm civilians, and if there's any collateral damage that happens, we will deal with it. But the idea, the notion that we are bombing civilians indiscriminately is A, not borne by the facts, and B, not fair.
Finally, is the British government warning you that it may stop supplying weapons? Is it sufficiently worried that that might actually happen because of these reports of civilian casualties?
If a mistake is made, if an incident happened, we investigate it. If it turns out that it was a mistake, we will acknowledge it, and we will find ways to reduce it.
With that explanation,
everybody is satisfied with that explanation, because in all wars you have collateral damage.
The Saudi Foreign Minister talking to Jonathan Rugman.